What's cracking, people? I'm Theo Kane, this is Slimehouse TV, and in today's video we're going to be going for a bit of a show and tell vibe. Although I'm not going to be showing you anything in the studio, because in this video we're going to be heading into the house and I'm going to be showing you a side of my toy collection that I've never actually really put on camera before. As you know, these days on the channel I like to concentrate more on the toy making and the toy creation side of things, but then also every now and again I like to show you part of my collection so that you can see what inspires me to create the stuff that I do. And the stuff that I'm going to be showing you in today's video is a huge source of that inspiration. So what I'm going to be letting you see today is the majority of my Sofubi collection. Sofubi adjacent stuff, toys that I've designed and toys that I worked on, and then a bunch of other obscure little knickknacks as well that are scattered throughout, all stuff that I've picked up in Japan and Europe and America, so a lot of real prize pieces that you don't see very often. Now, my Sofubi collection is something that's been highly requested to be seen on this channel before, and you might have seen some of these toys featured in various pickup videos and things in the past, but I've never revealed this part of the collection in its entirety. So if that sounds like a bit of you, then as always, sit back, make sure you're comfy, we'll head inside and I'll show you what kind of Sofubi I'm currently dealing with in my collection. Let's do this. Okay, so here we are, and if we just get straight into it, first of all, we might as well look at these two standout pieces. Right at the front and the center of the collection, this 1970s Jumbo Mazinger Z, and then this beautiful Shogun Warriors Raiding. Two prize pieces in my collection, and two that I'm very happy to own. You might even remember watching the video at the start of the year where I got this Mazinger Z from my friend Francesco in Italy, a guy with a crazy collection of Jumbo Machinda and Shogun Warriors and Shogakin and giant robots, and someone that I definitely want to go and see again because he's a good friend of mine. He's got an awesome collection, and I hope to one day just have a percentage of the robot collection that he's got because his stuff is phenomenal, and yeah, these are one of my favorite things to hunt for. And then in front of them I've got a bunch of random Sofubi from different eras that all just looked kind of good together, so I put them together on this shelf. Some Bandai, some designer Sofubi, RX Nemesis, got the Unbox Industries Tetsuo, an Ultra Tomba Maggot Baby I think it were called, made in hell, really cool piece from my first ever Toy-Con event. Got some nice Ultraman Kaiju on here, this guy from Ultraman Ace, I forget his name, some designer toys, and then of course, as I said, a really nice piece from my friends over at RX Nemesis. And then in front of these, I've got a bunch of these mini Sofubis that are all mostly made by Bullmark. And I'm such a big fan of these, I absolutely love them. When I were picking most of these up, they were very cheap, but nowadays they've gone up and up in value. And I did get a bunch from the Ancient Mariner from a toy hunt that I did with him last year. But there's some real iconic characters here. You've got King Joe and Baltan and Red King and Kanagon and loads of Ultraman classic characters. As I said, next to like Jet Jaguar and Megalon and stuff, like a real mix. But I absolutely love these figures, and anytime I see them at a decent price, if it's one that I don't have, I always pick them up for the collection. Then over here, up on the right, we've got one of my favourite kaiju in my entire Sofubi collection. This old 1970s King Godras, or King Godlass, as I've sometimes heard him called, by Marazon. This is the banana oil lamp. You actually put a light in the back of this guy and he turns into a lamp, and I absolutely love this thing. You might even remember the video where I got it when I was in Tokyo. I picked this up from the Mandarake Nakano Broadway Mall, brought it back to England, and it's taken pride of place in my collection ever since. Behind him, there's this Masudaya 90s Gokinosaurus from Spectre-Man Kaiju, and above him is a really nice Gigan. This is another one that I got from my last trip when I went to Tokyo. Around his neck is randomly the 2016 Horicon staff wristband, and then next to him is this tiny Sofubi of Belial from Basket Case, and I can't remember who made this thing, but I really, really like it. Next to him, I've got an old Kamen Rider Super 1 in its box that I got from Italy, a Bandai Jushin Liger Dragon King that I got from Doncaster in a video, a bagged Spanish bootleg Freddy Krueger figure, a random Just Beyond Gun rack toy thing, and next to that, an unopened pack of Ultraman Oreos. And behind all that, I've got this tacky old Caveman and Dinosaurs prehistoric playset that I got from a car boot absolutely years ago and just kept because I like the box, even though you never even really see it because it's hidden by all this other stuff. So if we drop down to these other shelves below, we've got another random mismatch one, which is kind of the vibe of this entire display, to be honest. And in here, I've got another lovely RX Nemesis figure that they very kindly gifted to me. A green Marmot 90s reproduction Gamera Sofubi. Next to him is an awesome Unbox Industries Rick from Splatterhouse Sofubi. And then at the front, a 90s repro of the 70s Ultraman Gomez Sofubi as well. Really, really love this thing. Another really cool piece that I picked up on one of my Japan trips. Some really nice Sofubi and designer toys in this next shelf as well. Starting off with this They Live inspired piece by Transmission Toys that I was gifted by my friend Spencer Hickman a couple of toy cons back, and if you know me, you know that I love They Live, so this is something that I was very happy to receive and add to the collection. Above him, this jumbo Frogger that was made by my friend Last Resort Toys, and in front of him, the tiny Arco's Another World original Frogger that he was based on. Another couple of cool pieces on here. I've got this vintage Roboto KGK Sofubi that Ancient Mariner gave me, my all-time favourite tokusatsu show. I've got this Bullmark Repro Godzilla that my friend Forgotten Starship picked me up when he went to Tokyo. And standing behind all of them is this awesome Jet Jaguar Sofubi / Money Box that I picked up on one of my trips to America, and it was just really cheap from a random comic shop. They had loads of them, but if you try and find one now, they've really shot up in value. Behind all of them, I've got this awesome Rambo Halloween mask and costume set that my friend Devon sent me from Texas. Now, this was made by an American company called Collegeville in the 80s, back when little children would get together and dress up as violent Vietnam veterans with PTSD for Halloween. Good times. On this shelf, I've got 3 random vintage pieces that are all presumably taken from old games. Just cool pieces that I pulled out of boxes while rummaging through the Ancient Mariner's private stock. You might have even seen some of these in videos before. I've also got a pack of the reproduction Meanies Tomato Crisps, just because I love the artwork. And keeping with the theme of snacks and stuff behind him, I've got an Ultraman Mebius Ocean Bomb Soda. Again, just because I love the artwork that's on it. The exact same reason why I've got a packet of crisps on this shelf as well that I picked up in Tokyo, just because I like the graphics. Next to that is a really cool Sofubi that my friend Rob Klops gave me called Bollock. He gifted me this at one of the Toy-Con events. He made this himself, and I always really love to see people making their own designer Sofubi, and when it's one that my friends made, I always try and give it pride of place front and center in my collection. Next to that, I've also got this Los Angeles Junior Goodwill Games hockey puck that my friend Ryan made me, which 90s movie fans with a keen eye might recognise from a film that was one of my favourite movies growing up, and one of the best sequels of all time, Mighty Ducks 2. Now, there are some really nice bits on this shelf, but the prize piece for me, one of my favourites, is this 1970s Red King helmet by Yonezawa Toys. Another thing that I picked up from the Mandarake at Nakano Broadway Mall in Tokyo, and one that I like to display on an old creepy vintage little boy clown doll head, just because. Now, on this shelf down here, I've got a couple of cool, really old Rat Pack toys that are very different, but they look very awesome next to each other. And I'll get these out properly because there's some absolute gold inside these. Check this. So here we've got the A-Team with Cobra X, Cobra, and C. Norris. And inside we've got a bunch of random figures, all based on classic action hero characters. And then randomly some giant weapons as well. Axes, machine guns, all the good stuff. On the back we've got Mr. T again, this time A-teaming up with Rambo 2, Rambo, Invasion USA, and then of course Rambo 3. But I absolutely love these. These came from Mexico or something like that, I can't remember, but yeah, absolute gold. And this pack is very different. I got these from Kaiju McCartney last year. Just as cool though. This is a pack of old Zone Fighter mini Keshi figures. Lots of light doubles and stuff in there. But yeah, I just love these. I can never get enough of Keshi packs and stuff. These old vintage rack packs. Like, these are just a little bit of me right here. Next to them as well is like a more modern day Sofubi toy that's rack toy style that my friend T gave me of Red Baron. And underneath all of them, I've got another bunch of rack toys, all vintage, really, really cool single figure baggy figures. So here I've got an Ultra 7, I've got a Casshern, a Common Rider Sky Rider, and then a Go Ranger figure as well. All stuff that I picked up on my trips to Japan, and all stuff that I really, really love. Underneath them as well, I've got some random bits of ephemera paper stuff that I just picked up when I was over there, including this Father of Ultra Flyer that I think is advertising breath spray. And if I remember correctly, I got this out of a taxi, I can't quite remember. And next to them, I've also got a real nice rack pack of unopened original vintage Garbage Pail Kids cards as well. So back to Sofubi and monsters again. On this shelf, there's some really nice pieces. I've got a Drango, a reproduction of the old Marazon Drango figure, a Torment Sofubi figure by an independent designer called NK1. He gifted me that for a video a couple of years ago. A random Bandai Miklas figure from Ultraman, and then behind all of them, a monster that most toy collectors will recognise, whether they're into Sofubi or classic toys or whatever, the old vintage Kenner Star Wars Rancor. Then right at the bottom shelf here, we've got a few boxed and unopened pieces, including this ever-bright knockoff Godzilla, the Dino King, a really nice piece that I picked up from a car boot years and years ago for pennies and I've cherished ever since. This Operations Aliens Plasma Bubble Bath set, which I absolutely love. I had this same one as a kid and it was a great day, the day that I found one as an adult for my collection. Next to them, I've got a couple of vintage plastic robots. Big fan of the graphics that are on these boxes and the colours that were used on them and that kind of thing. One of these I picked up in Japan at Mandarake in Shinjuku for like £5, the Japanese one. The other one was a gift from my friend Scott from Scott's Comics and Collectibles. Very cool guy and very, very generous. Speaking of robots as well, right next to them I've got this little guy, which viewers of the movie that I made, Unit 11, will instantly recognise as the robot that was featured in that film, and was our gang's like assist droid slash gang mascot slash killing machine. So this is K-Bot, and I made this guy like 15 years ago out of junk, so he's seen better days, he's a bit broken and a little bit worse for wear, but out of all of the props that I made for that movie, this is one that I always keep on display because I've still got a lot of love for this guy. Next to him down here as well, I've also got this, which is a ticket to a private screening of my favourite horror film of all time, Chuck Russell's The Blob remake from 1988. Another cool little piece that I found on one of our many Slimehouse filming and hunting trips. So if we take it back to the toys now, this middle section has some really fun pieces in it, including a blue Furby. Not a big Furby collector or anything like that, but I thought this was a colour that you don't see very often, so I kept this one. Next to him is a Critter by Monstars. I thought those two look quite cool together. In front of them is this unopened old Halloween butcher's knife, another cool old Halloween costume prop for the kiddies. And behind this is a toy that I worked on years and years ago called Jawbone, based on the old Flexatron figure Herbone. And also was one of my very early ventures into working for a company who at the time made a bit of Sofubi. There's also a big stone man here from the old toy line Starias, because he fit there really nicely. And below him, amongst other things, is an old Tomy Mr. Time, because if you didn't pick up on it already, I'm a real sucker for a cute little vintage toy robot. Now on top of this unit, I've got one of my favourite playsets of all time, the old 90s Hasbro Monster Face, or Dr. Skiffle if you went for his cheaper European cousin like I did. But I absolutely love this thing. I bought it myself a couple of years ago for my birthday and I did an unboxing video on the channel, and it's one of those toys that I had as a kid and I played with it until it fell to pieces, so it was really cool to get another one as an adult that was boxed and complete, and I had a ton of fun putting this thing together. There's a cool card rack as well on this unit, which is an old original vintage card rack that my dad found on a clearance. I've actually got two of them, but they're a really cool way to display a bunch of the old packs that I've found on my travels, and here's a real mix of genuine vintage ones and then a bunch made by my friend Raygun cards as well. And finally, right in the middle of the wall is this giant zombie astronaut mask by Retro A Go-Go, who I believe are an American company, or at least that's where I got them from. And I do have a few of these scattered around my house. They're not vintage or anything like that, but they're pure retro vibes and I absolutely love them. If you're enjoying this video today and you want to help support what I do, then the best place to do that is over on my Patreon at patreon.com/SlimehouseTV. There's a couple of different perks on there depending on what tier you go for, and if you join the Slime Alliance tier or above, you also get access to our exclusive Discord server. Also, recently I started uploading the STLs of the toys that you might have seen me sculpt on this channel, so if you've got a 3D printer or access to a 3D printer, you'll now be able to print out your own version of one of those toys. I'm also currently working on this thing, which is an exclusive just for the Patreon members. Basically some attachments that you put on the Genomorph that I made last month to turn it into something that's very much inspired by the Kenner Mantis alien. A new head and some front arms and stuff, so that's looking really cool. Currently working on that. And all the money that's generated on that and all the revenue that I get all goes directly back into the channel and helps me make Slimehouse TV and this brand bigger and better than ever. So like I said, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, you like my content, you like the vibe of my videos and you want to see them continue and grow, then patreon.com/SlimehouseTV is the best place to go and do that. Okay, so we're halfway through, we're onto the other side of the display now, and starting right at the bottom, I've got either a Dino Riders T-Rex that's missing all of its weapons, or a complete Tycho Smithsonian Museum T-Rex, depending on which way you look at it. Next to him is some random stuff, including an old vintage Joy Ball gaming controller, and some more boxed plastic retro robots. Above them is a shelf with some goops on it, which is basically a line of rubber frisbees that were heavily inspired by Mad Balls and kids' horror toys and 80s gross out stuff that I really like. Behind them are some Bandai Kaiju, a Blast Magus from Mighty Max, an empty can of Belton from my old school graffiti days, and a really nice unopened, unpunched Muton figure from Action Man Action Force. Now the shelf next to this has some really interesting pieces on it, but the standout thing is not even a toy. Displayed here is an original screen-used official Judge Hunter prop helmet from the 1995 Sylvester Stallone movie Judge Dredd. Now this was gifted to me by my friend Redbeard, and it's really cool to look at because nowadays all of this stuff would be 3D printed, but this is back in the days of hand sculpting helmets for movies and casting them in fiberglass and stuff, so it's a really nice thing to not only own as a Sylvester Stallone fan, a big Sylvester Stallone fan, but also as an awesome study piece as well. On the next shelf up, I've got various bits. Some little Japanese sweet/model kits that I recently showed on a video that Ancient Mariner sent me. Some Planet of the Apes statues that I got gifted by my friend T. An unopened Garbage Pail Kids poster. I've got some wacky ghoulies that are still attached to their old vending machine display. A pair of Madball's knee pads from the 80s. And some more unopened packs of sweets that I got from Japan, only this time Star Wars themed. Bit more Sofubi stuff now. I've got this incredible crustacean style piece here that my friend Concrete gifted to me. Just something that he had in his own collection that he thought would look better in mine, so big ups to him for that. There's also a sewer creep here that I got sent by Scumpit Toys. They sent me that a couple of years ago. This thing here is the exact same little chattering skull jiggler that Captain Spaulding has around his neck in A House of a Thousand Corpses that I just thought were cool because that's something that you'd only really know if you was a guy that collected weird old toys like this. And then behind all of them, right at the back, if you can see in there, is the original hand-sculpt, Sculpey version of the formaldehyde face that I made that was like a They Live inspired Madball many, many years ago on this channel. There's also one of the first ever pulls there as well. On the shelf next to them, there's a complete Mighty Max Skull Mountain, another one of my most favourite playsets that's ever been made ever. Big fan of this thing, and I don't know how or when, but I really want to create a toy that's inspired by this at some point. Like, I just think that would be a joy to create. There's also a couple of pieces here that my friend Rob brought me back when he went to Florida to Halloween Horror Nights and they did Killer Clowns from Outer Space, just because that was another movie that I was a massive fan of growing up. And then on this shelf, the very last of these type of shelves, I've got these tiny little Goop knockoffs that I got in Japan, a Mark 1 Gundam helmet, this awesome Real Head Unbox Industries Ninja Turtles that I was sent by Dan from Unbox Industries, a little Bullmark Space Amobus Gynmess that wouldn't fit with the others, a cool old Garbage Pail Kids card that my friend Joe Grotesque sent me, a He-Man slime pit with a Zolo World green slime drone toxic looking skeleton inside, just because I felt like he looked like the kind of skeleton that would be hanging out in a slime pit. And then this thing which I've only ever seen one of in my whole life, it's a weird Mexican knockoff puppet of Jason Goes to Hell. I love how it's specifically Jason from Jason Goes to Hell as well. Very random, and like I said, I've never seen another one, but absolutely love this thing. Now, before I get to the last shelf, I'll also show you this quickly. This is a giant fake cactus that I saw in IKEA once a few years ago, and I just had to bring it home because I thought it was such a vibe. Above that, I've got pretty much a full set, I think, of Monster in My Pocket Series 1, 2, and 3. There might be like 2 or 3 figures missing from it, but it's pretty much a full run of the original 3 series of Monster in My Pocket. And then on the cabinet above them, I've got a couple of these G.I. Joe Mega Monsters, just because I always love the colours on these guys. Okay, last bit now. Top shelf, hardcore, vintage, and Sofubi goodness 101. So first of all, I've got this thing, which is an old gumball machine, and this came out of a warehouse find about 10 years ago, where we came across about 100 of these in various shapes and sizes and states, and I took about 5 home. This one was one of my favourites though, just because of all the stickers that it had on it. E.T. and Skyway, pure 80s goodness, and it's also full of little tacky old 80s kitsch toys as well, which is obviously awesome. On the top of this as well is one of the masks from the old early 80s movie BMX Bandits, which is mad because I spent years trying to find one of these online and never could, and then one day, randomly, I found one unopened, still in its packaging at the car boot, so this for real is one of my most prized possessions right here. Got some more cool Sofubi on this shelf as well. I've got this Ultraman Antler, which is a 90s reproduction of the 70s Bullmark Antler. This little Jet Jaguar that Tokyo Toy Banzai sent me. A really nice Megalon. A little Bandai, I think it's Bandai, Vakishim from Ultraman. And this guy, which was sent to me by the awesome people over at Mosa Toys, awesome Sofubi designers. And yeah, you might have even seen him in my last ToyCon video as well. Really cool guys. Behind them is a Zigra from Gamera, and then in front of them all I've got these little old knockoff wind-up figures of Godzilla, Creature from the Black Lagoon and King Kong, and these aren't even that rare, you do see them around, but I've always really liked them, and as you can see, my King Kong does need a new leg because he's only got one. Next to them on the other side, I've got my Tall Neck Lego playset from Horizon Zero Dawn / Forbidden West. And I'm not a big Lego collector or anything like that, but I love Horizon and I love Aloy, so I had to get this. And as you can see, I've also got Rambo up there holding the fort with her, just because I thought with them both being such big fans of archery and bow and arrows that they'd have a lot to talk about. This is also a really cool Sofubi. It's kind of big, and I think it's made by Masudaya. I might be wrong, but it's the three-headed dragon. Mitsubukushi Ryu, if I remember his name right. That's really awesome. I got that from the first ever trip that I went to when I went to Japan. And then behind him is another Masudaya Common Rider, which I got from Lulu Baloo in Paris. You might even remember the video. This here is, I think, an Ultraman bottle of water. I can't remember. It may be Bubble Bath. And I got this from the Ultraman store, again, when I was in Tokyo. And then behind him, a couple of nice vintage Japanese Rack Pack toys. The prize piece of this shelf, though, isn't even a Sofubi piece. It's this guy, my 1961 Louis Marks Great Garloo. You might even remember the video where I picked this up when I was in Japan. It's one of, like, my most holy grail prized possession pieces in my entire collection. Its loincloth has still not been fixed after all these years. I do need to try and find a new loincloth for it, but whenever anyone asks me, like, what's your favourite piece in your entire collection, this is always one that instantly springs to mind. A really, really, like, holy grail piece right here. Then on these last two shelves, I've got a little red Sofubi that I worked on with a company years and years ago when they were making their first Sofubi, and then above him, this really nice, huge Bandai Gamora from Ultraman, which I got at the last Toy-Con event from the Ancient Mariner. Love this thing. I've got this awesome little Ultraman Zippo lighter here that I've had for years that my friend Rachel got me when she went back to Hong Kong to visit some family. There's also some other little bits and pieces on here, like random little things that I've found that I liked that look like fast food items or little pieces that I made for dioramas in the past. There's also this Fire Shark Sofubi by Sunguts. People always ask me about this when I picked it up a couple of years ago at a Toy-Con event from the guy that made it, Sunguts, and I always really love this thing. As soon as I saw it, I had to get involved, and it was also a really good price. For the size of it, like, I couldn't believe how cheap it was, so very, very happy with this purchase, and he, like, lives at the top of my display now. The spaceman next to this guy is a Sofubi by the designer Riker, and I actually was involved in the designing of this thing when it first ever got made, so that's something that I also keep there, pride of place. And then behind it, one of the most impressive things in this entire display, some old Ultraman pasta. So there you have it, that's the bulk of my Sofubi collection. I do have some other bits in storage. I've got some stuff in the toy room, and I've got the odd thing dotted around this room as well, like some more personal pieces that either I've worked on or my friends have given me and stuff. But that's the majority of it. So I hope you enjoyed seeing it and you like the way that I've curated it and that kind of thing, the way that it's all arranged. I've said this a couple of times today too, but a lot of what you've seen there is stuff that I've either picked up on my travels, gone to Japan and that kind of thing, and that's something that I really want to do more of again in 2025. It's been a couple of years since I went back to Tokyo, and I'm really missing it. Like, I really do genuinely miss being out there. I feel like it's calling me, and I really want to try and get out there again next year. And obviously, I want to do a bunch of toy hunting, but that's not just all I want to do when I get out there. I want to hook up with my friends that are out there making toys, maybe go and see Goto-san and get a Turgo painted, maybe even visit a Sofubi factory, just film a bunch of content that I can put together into episodes and put it back out on the channel for you lot to enjoy. There's so much stuff that I want to film out there. There's so many opportunities that I've got now that I didn't have when I went out there last time a few years ago. So if that's something that you'd like to see, if that's something that you would be excited to see on this channel, then please let me know in the comments below, because that's something that I'm really trying to sort out for 2025. I'd also love to know if you've picked up anything obscure recently, anything weird, any Sofubi that I don't know about or anything like that. Let me know down in the comments below. And if this is your first time checking out the channel, then let me know who you are, where you're from, what you collect, and how you found us. Very welcome here at Slimehouse. I try and do videos every single week, so if you enjoyed the vibe of this video, you're probably going to enjoy the other stuff that I drop on here as well. So please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, give this video a like, and yeah man, welcome to Slimehouse TV. But I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody that's watched this video today. I know it's a pretty simple episode today, but sometimes you've got to keep it simple. With all the stuff that I've got going on, every now and again I just have to put out a video that's like pretty simply edited and that kind of thing. But I hope you enjoyed it anyway. I also want to say a massive respect as always to all of the Slime Alliance members. We're growing every single month and I really love to see it, and you really do make these videos possible. So genuinely thank you. I've got some really cool videos planned for 2025, all stuff that I'm looking forward to, and I hope to catch you in those videos. But until then, then, I'm Theo Kane, this is Slimehouse TV, that was my Sofubi collection, and until the next video, I'm gone. Pow!